All right, so we are going live, and we're live. All right, hello. Hi, Ralph.
Great. Great.
All right, so we are broadcasting live, but there is a little bit of a delay. So I'm going to bring one of my groups up because that way I can see when it catches up to us. So let me go do that and find my group and bring it up here. All right, so yeah, I think it's just coming up live as we're talking. All right, so I am going to
Awesome.
invite anyone who is viewing this to say hello. So I'm going to bring my comments up and I'm going to get, let's see, first of all, let's get our little ticker up here. So we have all of our details and we're going to bring up comments so I can see. All right, so if anyone viewing, just say hi. I will see you in the comments. I assume everybody can hear me because Ralph can hear me, so that's always a good sign. And yay. All right. So I am very excited about this topic. And I'm so glad, Ralph, that you and I connected before this because I really didn't know anything about the subject matter. And I'm going to admit I know very little about it now, but at least I know more than I did before. And I got to play with the map that you sent me and the free one on your website, which was really cool. And I'm looking forward to diving into that a little bit more and understanding it a little bit more. So, how
Awesome.
about I introduce you so we can get started? Okay. So, this is Ralph MacIntyre, and he has been a practicing intuitive astrologer since 2010. And he is a certified master evolutionary astrologer under Stephen Forrest. Of course, I don't know who that is, but we can ask him about that in a moment. And he's certified in astrocartography relocation astrology under Jim Lewis. Now, I recognize that name, although I don't necessarily specifically know who that is. I'm going to ask you about him in a second. And Ralph is refining his cutting edge astrocartography map software as well as developing new astrology apps. But I also know from talking to Ralph that he's also leaning more towards the readings he does. So we're going to talk about that as we go through, and there's a reason for that. And he sits on the board of NCGR San Diego chapter as a librarian, right? So that's what you do in your spare time.
Yes.
Perfect. And he's known for blending evolutionary astrology with locational astrology. So I think we're just going to start this conversation off by asking you, how did you get into this field of study work? And where does the librarian part come in? Because they're two completely unrelated things, or are they?
Yeah, I have to chuckle every time I hear the librarian. I was diagnosed dyslexic as a kid, and so reading was always it's not so much anymore, but that's going to get into the other subject that we're going to talk about. But, so yeah, I have been studying astrology since I was a kid, and primarily girlfriends got me into it, I guess. And then my ex-wife was really into astrocartography, and there was no, there was like this antiquated old map that you had to break a ruler out and transfer it over to the atlases, all on paper, And so I had this bright idea that I could take that and put it on the Google Maps, just primarily for her. And once I got it done, I realized I had created the best software at the time. I still think it's kind of up there as the best. People kind of caught up. Some people kind of copied me directly. Um, and so I was like, oh, okay, let me see about putting this out into the world and possibly selling it. And then I quickly realized that quite often with me, I'm like ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a lot of effort of just getting people up to what I have available. And then now I'm kind of moving more into the intuitive evolutionary astrology. Um, and I found that most people, when they're looking to move, they focus on the map. In reality, what's going on inside of them is more the issue than the astrology of the location. And so I do a lot more on the soul recovery work And that's kind of going back to what I was joking about with the librarian, because it's like as a kid, I got imprinted this dyslexic on top of me, and then I believed it, and then and so once you kind of remove all the layers, the transparencies off the purity
Mm.
of you, you get to kind of thrive wherever you are. So that's more of the work I do now. And I still do a
Okay.
lot of programming astrology. I kind of geek out on that. And
Okay, I
so,
love
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
love how you take those two together, and that's often what happens, right? Because you have something and you're using it, but then you have another skill set that you bring to the table, and then you bring that to the table and fine tune it. And I'm actually really looking forward to showing that to our viewers because you sent me the link to the map, which is very cool, and it was really fun to play with. But just before we do that, like, what is astrocartography? Like, let's just talk in general about what that actually is. And I'm just going to remind our viewers, just to say hi if you're here, so I know who's here, and also that you have to. Sorry, I'm going to let you answer that in a second, Ralph. Also, that you have to allow StreamYard to show your name. So in this live viewing, there's a link to do that. And I'll show you why, just so you can see. So somebody on Facebook said hi, but I can't see who you are. So if you allow me to see your name, I'll see who you are, and that will be important when we do questions. So hi to whoever you are. I can go actually cheat and look at Facebook, which I'm going to do. All right, Ralph, what is astrocartography?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people get fooled by the very complicated name, because it is kind of a complicated name. What is that? Trying to spell it. And I think I actually pronounce it wrong. I use the Y, astrocartographer, E. Somebody's pointed, but so here's the simple answer. Have you ever sat and watched the sun rise?
Yes.
Sat and watched the sun set, or the moon rise, or the moon set? Well, technically, that is an astrocartography line on the planet right there. So
Oh,
wherever you're sitting, if a planet is rising, that's the ascendant line. If it's setting, that's the descendant line. If it's directly overhead, that's the midheaven. And then if it's um, on the other side of the world, it's the IC. And so if you think about astrology, and we'll geek out a little bit here. So the first house is the ascendant. So the astrology chart is a circle, and it's divided up into pieces. And then, so if you think about a cross, it's kind of like the horizontal and the vertical axis. And so the first house is the ascendant. That's the rising of a planet. And
hmm,
then the seventh house is the setting of the planet. So the rise is your persona, how you see the world, the glasses you see through. The descendant is how you relate to other people, intimate relationships. It's one-on-one friendships, you know. The
okay.
and then the midheaven is noon. That's kind of how people who don't know you interact with you. So like this is kind of a midheaven. You guys are interacting with me, but you're interacting with my persona as an astrologer, you know.
Mm,
And then the IC is the home and family, where you nurture yourself, how you nurture yourself. And so imagine at the moment of birth, if I were to take and draw a line where if you were standing, you'd see either the rise, the midheaven, or that's the astrocartography lines.
okay. Well, that makes so much more sense to me because, of course, when I look at the images and, even on I'm just going to pop over here and pop this up. You guys will you'll still hear us, but, this is the promotional page I did. Of course, oh, you can't see it because the countdown map, but behind the countdown map, there's that little map there in the background with all the lines. And when I went and pulled that, um, from your site, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like there's just lines everywhere." And it was overwhelming and I didn't know what any of it meant. And so that description really does help clarify that. So it's and we're gonna do a visual of this in a second. But before I do that, I'm gonna go we're going to go into another explanation because there was something else I mentioned in your introduction. So we kind of get our cartography. But I wrote down what is, because I said that you're known for blending evolutionary astrology with locational astrology. So can you tell us what the difference is between those two, evolutionary and locational astrology?
Yeah, I can, but I want to kind of add a little bit to the astrocartography because
Okay.
so technically astrocartography is what I described. Okay. Um, but there's two other systems. There's three systems total that is locational mapping, the local space, and then the geodetic. And we'll talk a little bit about those as we go on. But so when you look at my map, you'll see all three of them layered together. So evolutionary astrology, that's just kind of where my real passion is. So fundamentally, the concept of evolutionary astrology is reincarnation. So you're a soul, and you've been here before, and likely, maybe, hopefully not. Some people kind of hope that they're not going to be, but you're likely going to come back. And so there's a way of looking at the birth chart using astrology. This is kind of what I specialize in, is to see, because so if you think about last lifetime, yesterday, the day before, last week, when you were 2 years old, you weren't as smart as you were today. You're not as good at what you're doing as you are today, hopefully. Most of us, no matter what your brain says, we all tend to grow as we get older. It may not seem so, and if you listen to your brain, if it's anything like mine, you'll start to wonder. So by understanding where you're coming from, which is the karma that's ripe, the bad habits, the things that didn't go well, either you didn't get them right or circumstances, can help you kind of understand the layers that are keeping you, from being the true you. And then where you're going is kind of like anytime you take a class, you're ignorant, as in you need to learn. This is something you need to learn. This is what your soul signed up to learn. So if you think about your higher self, the universe conspired to help break you free of your ego. Because the ego, everyone has an ego. Everyone needs an ego. Everyone's ego is a good thing. But the ego is almost too good at its job because the ego wants to keep you safe. And the way the ego keeps you safe is doing what you did yesterday. Hey, I survived that. Let's do it again.
Oh, I love that explanation.
And so the trick is that, yeah, you survived it. I survived getting run over by a truck, but do I really want to do it again today or tomorrow and for the rest of my life? It's like I survived in abusive whatever. Do I really? And the ego's like, yeah, we survived it as long as, and then what terrifies the ego is change. It's like, I have no idea if I can, hey, I don't know. I know, let's go with what I know. And so the higher self, the soul, is like, hey, let's conspire to help break you free of that. And that's kind of your North Node. That's your astrology. By looking at your chart, and this is how I look at astrology. This is also very different than pretty much all astrocartographers out there, because a lot of times astrocartographers, they look at the map. They say, oh, this is a good line, move to this line. Oh, this is a bad line, move away from this line. And I don't look at it that way because very often it's not the case. Very often it's these kind of layers, It was funny, I was thinking right before we got on this call, I was thinking about dating myself and then also trying to come up with a more modern definition. But remember when we were kids, they had the projector and the transparencies, okay? So when the projector's on, there's that pure light. So imagine that's your soul. And then karma, the past lives and trauma in this life or transparencies put on top of it. Okay.
Ooh, like
So
that.
another way, modern way, for all you people that didn't have to suffer through the antiquated. So if you've ever done like a Photoshop, where there's layers, or there's I think they call it layers. It's like you have a screen or a filter, like on Instagram. You got that
Yeah.
picture, then all of a sudden you got this filter, and so as on Instagram, not all the filters are flattering, and so, and then here's another thing that was just like came through today. This is kind of like fresh off my download. So if you think about who you are, the purity of who you are, and then all these layers, it's like how to see them. Well, just like on Instagram, just like on the overhead projector, what you see. Okay, so when you look at yourself, you look at your life, you look at what you bring into your life, how people react to you, all of that. And if you think about anything that's not pure, like beautiful sun, gold, glow, is a transparency, a layer, a filter. Okay. And so the trick is, and this is my specialty, this is kind of the soul recovery work that I do, is I have an innate ability to help people see their layers and say, hey, that's not you. Do you really want to have that, And it's like on some levels, it's just as easy like on Instagram, clicking it on or off, taking it on or off. On some levels, once you really see it, once you can really see, it's like, wait a minute, oh, you could be free of it. Now, if it was that easy, we would all get rid of them, like,
Yeah, but you have to see it. I'm just going to jump in there for a second because I think what you said, I want to pull this out because I think it's so important. You have to see it first. So a lot of times we don't even see it. So that's the first step. Now we say once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if I'm understanding what you're talking about in the work that you do, that's really the big first crucial step that you do is you help people see the layers that are distorting the true essence of who they are, right? So that's the first piece of it.
Yeah, I love the way you said that, and I would change that just slightly, because we all see the layers. It's seeing you without the layers is the trick.
Okay. I like
because
that.
because we all see the layers. It's like, this is me. It's like, wait a
Right.
minute, no, you were here, and then there's this layer, that's in front of you. It's like once you get, yeah. And then one of the things I really am liking right now is Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of stuff around this. And one of the things he talks about that I really find super helpful is you got to realize that the ego, the body, the actual physical body is kind of an addict to these feelings. Okay. So when you look at the world, you see through this layer and the world comes back, you get a feeling, So like dyslexic, I can't read. I have this feeling of being inadequate, dumb, that I'm addicted to. And so it's like once you start to realize it, and the way I like to describe it is like, I grew up in the 80s, so crack, everything was smoking crack, So a crack addict, it's like literally your body's like once you start to realize, oh, it's doing that little addict thing. It's like wanting to, because what it does is it projects out into the world saying, hey, where's my fix? Let me get the people that give me that familiar feeling. Then I can be like, oh, I'm happy, And so once you start to identify yourself free of that layer, you see the layer, and you also identify the feeling that the body is addicted to, you can then start to give the body a different feeling. And then once you have a different feeling, the body is then manifesting different things in front of you, bringing different things into you. And this is kind of the law of attraction. It's like, and this is stuff that's like, there's so many different ways this has been said throughout time,
Hmm.
But this is kind of what we're talking about. And this is kind of what I specialize in, is helping you like identify all this.
So that's the evolutionary astrology side of it, right? That's where we
Yeah,
just went with that because it's very much about you and your past lives and what you bring here and what you pick up when you're here and how all of
yeah,
that creates who you think you are, losing that
yeah.
core identity of who you are. Am I paraphrasing that
Perfect.
correctly?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then locational astrology is almost more of a practical, less feeling thing, which is okay, but here's where, planets were in lines, and this is how they line up for you. And then this is how that energy connects to you based on, where you are in the world or even in your house or right. Like again, I'm probably not doing that one nearly as much justice because I feel like it's so much bigger than what I just said.
That was pretty good. I'm gonna take a little deeper.
Good.
So first thing I want to say is that my I have changed. Imagine that. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. Hopefully, I'll be different tomorrow. And so my view on this has changed quite a bit over the time. And where I'm at now, and then also my website and me don't quite keep up. So if you read my website, you might hear yesterday's thoughts. And my YouTube videos, I'm pretty up to date on most of my YouTube videos, especially the present ones. The older ones, I have a YouTube video that I did 10 years ago. It's like scary. It's
Wow,
like,
because we
wow, yeah,
do change and
yeah,
evolve.
yeah. So you walk outside your house, you dress according because you listened to the weather report or you looked out the window, one or the other.
Yeah.
So on some levels, astrocartography is the weather of the location. So the way I like to describe it, it's like so much easier to get a good answer to the question if you know the question. And so astrocartography will kind of say, hey, this is the energy that you're working with. And so another way I like to describe it is if you imagine the energy is like a truck and it's moving, okay? That truck is moving. Now, you can lay down in front of that truck and it'll run you over, which is generally the bad influence of astrology. So all the things you know about astrology are true, but generally it's because it's a passive reaction to astrology, Saturn, you lay down in front of Saturn. Pluto, you lay down in front of Pluto. It's going to run you over, But here's a news flash. That little round thing that you sit in front of on the truck called the steering wheel? You hop in there and you steer the truck. You use that Saturn energy in alignment with what you want out of life. It's your friend. There is no inherently, because people, it's funny because in astrocartography, most astrocartographers are going to tell you Venus line. Go to the Venus line to find love. Go to your Jupiter line. It's great, And even your sun line, it's great. Fundamentally, stay away from Pluto, stay away from Saturn. Well, it's funny for me because I am so Jupiterian. You put me near my Jupiter line, you're going to have to chain me to the ground. I moved to near my Jupiter line. I gained 40 pounds, because Jupiter blows everything up. And then Venus, Venus, it's like, okay, well, how many people have had problems with love? Being attracted to the right people, wrong people. You move to your Venus line, and I have Venus Neptune opposition. So I have this bad, I fall in love with everyone, everything instantly, and so it's like the idiots and the saints, and so if you move your Venus line in your discernment, or if you have a bad habit of picking bad lovers, that Venus line ain't your friend. Like, don't go there. Just like fundamental, because and this is interesting because I end up picking up a lot of pieces from other astrologers. It's like, hey, I moved to my Jupiter line. Why isn't life good? And then here's another one that, and Mary, slow me down if I start losing people.
No, you're
Okay,
good. I will.
okay.
I'm following you. Yeah.
Don't mind to interrupt me, ask me questions, because otherwise I can talk. I like to talk.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm just like I'm taking this
So
all in.
remember how I was saying the karma, where you're coming from and where you're going, and so where you're going, you're ignorant, and that's called the North Node. One way of looking at the North Node. Okay, and so if you go to the line associated, so let's say every planet, every sign has a planet that's associated with. Say that your North Node is in Sagittarius, okay? Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So your North Node is where you're ignorant, okay? So this will become real clear quickly. Because somebody asked me in a lecture I was doing, it's like, so why wouldn't I want to move to the line associated with my North Node? I'm like, oh, so you want to move where you're ignorant. You're the most ignorant about that energy, and think that it's, Jupiter, it's all good, it's Jupiter's going to blow everything, and if you struggle with being grounded and not like going everywhere, Jupiter's not going to be your friend, and so the same with, and then Pluto, I do a lot of work with Pluto, a lot of work with the Scorpio Pluto generation, Libra Pluto generation, all Pluto, because the thing about astrocartography that a lot of people miss is that your chart is all the lessons your soul, your higher self, suggested for you to learn. So it's like, no matter where you move, there you are. And so you can't move away from your Pluto, no matter what. It's just kind of like, hey, where can I move where if I chop my right arm off, I'll be good? It's like, yeah, I don't, hey, where can I move if I don't pay attention to my bad habits? Life's going to be good. It's like, yeah, sorry, I can't help you,
And this is the shortfall when you and I talk, because you said, in with the astrocartography, so kind of teaching people a little bit about that in terms of moving and the lines. But one of the questions I had for you, and you're answering it, I love when that happens, is can you explain what your personalized astrological influences are? And I think this is what you're talking about, is that yeah, you can have the planets and there's general meanings of them, but then you need to relate that to your chart, and you need to relate that to, and again, jump in if I'm butchering your meaning, but your strengths and your weaknesses and your challenges, and what you're here to do and accomplish. You need to take that, and then you kind of need to overlay that, those lines in the map to decide what's best for you. So this line might be best for me, but it's not best for the next person you talk to, or that person. Does that make sense?
And Sharon on the comments just gave me
Yeah.
something to talk about to answer that question.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharon.
So I'm going to make an assumption, Sharon. I hope I'm making the correct assumption that you're Pluto and Scorpio too. And so if you're not, this is going to still relate to you, but not quite as much. So one of my favorite people to work with is Pluto-Sun interactions, either conjunctions, squares, oppositions, or whatever. And so Pluto, from my perspective, and this is kind of unique to me, most people don't have this perspective, but Pluto is your superpower. And it's also all the things that keep you from your superpower. So, and Pluto's like, so if you think about, you're in the dark, you turn on a flashlight, you can see, but what do you see? You only see what's reflected by light, okay? Pluto can see in the dark. Pluto can see the things that aren't reflected by light. So there's a Native American ritual called a sweat lodge. Imagine you're in the sweat lodge, which is this basically dark tent that you're like super hot, and you see all these visions and everything, and how it could be very spiritual, So the sun is like, turns on the lights. Hey, what did I see? It's like, yeah, buddy, you just missed it. Light ain't gonna help you. Versus Pluto's like, oh, let me explain it to you. Especially the Pluto and Scorpio generation. It's like we see, or you see. I'm not Pluto and Scorpio, but you see things that are hidden. you know? And so part of the problem is that newsflash, most people on this planet don't want to see things that are hidden. That's why they're hidden. Most people are like, yeah, let me, go to the bar, hang out, get lost on Facebook, talk about the sports or, versus you Pluto and Scorpio folks are super intuitive. And also, our Western society doesn't really have a placeholder for the oneness of us all. It's like versus Pluto and Scorpio are deep into the oneness of it all. And so it's like, I'm feeling. It's like, oh, are you feeling the collective's feelings? And so as you start to understand this, and so the sun is the main energy of your birth chart. Okay. And if the main energy of your birth chart is connected to Pluto, there's a couple things happening. One, you're a super powerful soul, super powerful, have a lot going on. Everyone's a super powerful soul, but some Pluto people are, super powerful. The depth of your wisdom is beyond it's like, how do you know that? It's like, people ask me that all the time. How do you know that? It's like, don't ask me. I just tune in and it comes through. And so, but here's the issue, is your superpower, Pluto, the main energy of your sun, your birth chart, the main energy of your life, your sun are together, boom. But Pluto represents the wounds, everything that's keeping you from your superpower. And so on some levels, once you realize this Pluto is your superpower and your wounds, this is where it gets tricky. Your wounds are your superpower. Once you start to realize, so it's like, one way of looking at it, one analogy I like to use, if you think about your wounds as these bricks on your shoulders, okay? Now, these bricks are yours for life. If you carry them around on your shoulders, you get tired. But, if you put them on the ground and climb up on them, you can see further. You can see way further. And so the trick is to take them off your shoulder, put them on the ground, climb on them. They're still your wounds. It's still you. It's still the beautiful part of you. But, and then the other thing about it too, is it's like, when you're talking with people, when you're sharing yourself, when you're kind of merging, blending with people, especially as a healer, especially just as a person, it's like, this is why I like to use that sunset example, because everyone's experienced a sunset. So you instantly know what I'm talking about because you've experienced it. And so wounds, it's like, if you understand the wound as an experience, you can help people out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so so to me and Sharon, I'd love to hear your feedback on that and how that resonated with you. And Sharon's actually going to pop in on the private Q&A with us afterwards, so it'll be fun
Awesome.
to
We'll dive in.
yeah, we absolutely. So yeah, you just fascinate me. So when we did our pre-interview, you're like, you got to keep me on task. Like, I just love to talk. Well, I just love to absorb what people are saying. So I'm just like sitting here
Okay.
going, taking it all in, and I have to remember that I'm interviewing and moderating, and I need to do that part too. So 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 I'm curious, and I'm not, again, I don't know a lot about astrology. It's something that recently has been fascinating me more. I had a astrology reading a while ago because I found my time of birth. I'd had one years ago, many years ago, and then I found my time of birth and I'd had one again. So this Sharon said, "Can't wait." By the way, you probably
Yeah,
see
I
that.
saw that.
Yeah, she can't wait. So, so I didn't even really completely understand when she said Scorpion Sun on a Pluto line. So, just maybe you can just explain that for those of us that are like, "Hey, I'm not really completely understanding that."
Perfect. Thank you for slowing me
Oh,
down.
would it be helpful? I have my astrology chart that I had done. Would that be helpful to bring up as you're answering that? Like, is that in the chart as a
uh,
visual or no?
yeah, it might be. It
Okay.
depends on whether. So you could bring that up if you want.
Yeah, I know
So
that when
so
Yeah, sorry.
Uh,
Let me just
Um,
see if I can even
yeah.
grab it.
Why don't you work on that and I'll talk.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, I
So,
found it.
um, so if you think about there's there's a bunch of planets in the skies. Now with the asteroids and everything, we can get it can get super complicated quickly. But there's the traditional planets, which are 10 of them: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Sorry, when I'm in one mode, the other mode isn't. So we got Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. I think I got all those. I might have missed one. Apologize.
It's
So,
okay.
so if you think about each one of those planets is associated. There used to be in traditional astrology, we used to use the rulership. Okay. And it's kind of, there is a certain rulership aspect, but in modern astrology, um, affiliated, uh, uh, works well with, kind of associated with. Um, so each one of those planets is associated with a particular sign. And some of the planets are associated with multiple signs. And so Scorpio, the sign, Scorpio's a sign, Pluto's a planet, um, is associated with Pluto and Mars. Traditionally Mars, modern Pluto. And so to have a Scorpio sun, meaning your sun, the main energy. Okay, so let me step back because I just made a big jump and I want to make this clear. So, um, and there's a word for this and I don't know it. I should know it, but I don't know it. So the the pure the pure chart where the planet is in its own sign. Okay. So Pluto is in the sign of Scorpio. Okay.
Hmm.
The sun is in the sign of Leo. Okay. Now, very few people, not no one, but very few people, those Aries rise people, because Aries is ruled, and I haven't got into the houses yet, but I will here in a second. Aries rules the houses, or Aries rules the first house. Aries, Mars in Aries would be, Mars and Aries in the first house would be the purest form because Mars is affiliated with the sign Aries. Mars is affiliated with the first house. The sign Aries is affiliated with the first house. Okay. Now, that's kind of the natural zodiac. Okay. Very few people are that way. Okay. So very few people are born with that alignment. Okay. Not no one. There's quite a few of them out there, but most of the time you will find that. So like Sharon, Sun is affiliated with Leo, the fifth house, but her sun is in the sign of Scorpio.
Mm.
Now, let me step back. And so if you look at that birth chart that you're looking at, or you
Yes.
can look at the chart behind me.
I know. I was just going to
You're,
say we have the chart right behind you. Yes.
yeah. So I'm gonna apologize. I gotta put my glasses on so I can
Let's see.
see. Oh yeah, Cancer rise. Nice. That's why we like each other so well. I have a Cancer Mercury, so that kind of,
Ah.
and I'll get into that. So if you think about the circle as a pie, divided up into 12 slices, okay? So one way of looking at astrology is it's a metaphorical representation of life. Okay, all of life. It's a metaphorical representation of you and your role in all of life. Okay. It's also a metaphorical representation of where your soul's coming from and where your soul's going. I like to describe it as your college curriculum, the classes you're taking. Okay.
Mm.
Um, So, see, I got a little distracted there. So the houses are so you need to know your birth time to know the house.
Right.
So the houses are the physical reality of the planet. Okay. So it's noon where I am, give or take a few minutes. So that means the sun is directly overhead. Okay. That means if you look at the very top of that chart, we got Pisces and Aries up there. So when you were born, right above your head was the constellation. And it's not, because we're Western astrology, it's not actual the constellation in the sky. It's that end of winter, beginning of spring time of year, which is, March, April, was right above you. Okay.
Right.
And so each part of that represents part of life. Okay. So the first house, which is to the left and then down a little.
This one here, right? You see my mouse moving on it?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, wonder if I do. Yeah, that's okay. But it's the one to the left with what looks like a T, but it's not. It's Aries. I assume that's Aries. Is
Um,
that right? Am I looking at the right spot?
so that green symbol with the yours is Cancer. So if you think about the horizontal line,
Yes.
okay, the one the very left part of the circle is the first house. Okay.
Okay.
And then the houses count downwards.
Yes.
And then so below the line is, below the horizon. Okay. So when you were born, the sun and the moon were up in the sky above us. You were born probably right somewhere mid-morning. And I
Yes.
know this not by looking at your time, by looking at your chart, because the sun wasn't quite up to the midheaven, which is noon,
Mm.
Okay. You were also born at what's called a new moon. But let me go back, otherwise I think I'm going to lose people real quick. Okay. So if you think about the houses, there are pieces of the physical world, reality, you. So the first house is your persona, it's the color of the glasses you look out of the world at and the world sees you as. And then you go around the circle, and each part of the circle represents a part of life. The second house is your resources. The third house is your voice, the way your mind works. The fourth house is your home, how you nurture yourself. Traditionally, home and family, but in the modern sense, it's how you nurture yourself. The fifth house is your sun, the creativity, fun, being seen, children, love affairs. The sixth house is the physical reality, the world, discernment, timing. The seventh house is friendships, intimate relationships. Now, traditionally, it's the house of marriage. But if we take marriage as a whole and we divide it in half, as in, how do we get along? Like, hey, who takes out the garbage? That's the seventh house. The how we get along, my needs, your needs. Okay. The eighth house, which is one of my favorite houses, Scorpio. That's the spiritual sexuality, how we lose each other, how we kind of connect into the oneness, where that boundary between, self and other. I remember with my ex-wife, we had this game that we used to play all the time. And this is a classic Scorpio game. Was that my thought? Was I thinking ice cream or was that you? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking ice cream. And it's like true. It's like, was that my thought? Was I thinking ice cream or were you? And as a Scorpio, it's not so simple just because it popped into your head. I can't tell you how many times she's like, was I thinking ice cream? I'm like, no, that was me, or whatever. Am I angry? It's like, the world's pretty angry right now. Am I afraid? Am I scared? It's like, hey, the world's pretty afraid right now. And when I work with Scorpio people, that's one of the first things I do. It's like, hey, most of what you feel isn't you. This is like what kind of took me from this shell of myself to who I am. Once I moved out to the desert and I got free of everyone's energy, and I realized it's like, I'm not crazy. All you guys are.
You guys are. Sorry and I'm gonna bring you back because I don't want to lose this thought. So when Sharon says on a Pluto line, is that relative to her astrological influences, or is that where she resides on a Pluto line? I'm not sure what that part means.
Yes. So in astrocartography, there's 4 Pluto lines.
And this has nothing to do with this chart that I have up right now,
No,
right?
it does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to make that connection.
Okay, so see on the bottom of your chart, you have those two purple symbols.
Yes, right here.
Okay. So it's so interesting. You Mary, you set me up perfectly with this chart.
Okay, good.
This is where a lot of people that are into astrology, and then they just hear the word astrocartography and they go blank. I know nothing. And one of the first things I'd say to people is like, no, you know way more than you think you do. Okay, so remember how I said that at the moment of birth, or when you go outside and you look at the sun setting, you're on a sun descendant line. Okay. All right. So at the moment of birth, your sun was like, mid morning up in the sky, not quite to the noon yet. Now, but interestingly enough, you were born on a Pluto line. And how do I know that? I haven't even seen your map.
Yeah.
Well, those 2 Pluto symbols. Okay. Those 2 symbols, not Pluto, purple, the other P word.
Yes.
Those 2 purple symbols at the bottom of your chart, which is, Pluto and Uranus conjunction. Mid 60s, born in the mid 60s, I should say. I have that symbols, that mine. So because they're on that 4th house cusp, which is the midnight line, the IC, I know that you were born on at the moment of birth. Pluto was on the other side of the world. So you were born. If you are still where you grew up,
I am.
You were born on a Pluto line.
Okay, so I'm a Taurus sun. So coming back to what Sharon said, because I'm tying the pieces together. So I would be a Taurus sun on a Pluto line.
Yes.
Okay. So what might be interesting now, and you tell me if this makes sense, because I also have the local space map that I pulled off your website, which is one of your special offers. If I brought that up now, would that be something where we could tie this together? Or no?
Well, it depends on what your definition of tying things together are. I could tie them together, but they're
So I guess
hold on, we could go there. I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I guess my question was, and so, Sharon said she meant she was living on a Pluto line. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Sharon. By the way, someone else said hi. Just want to let me see who that is. Elma said hi, so hi, Elma, and Dorothy, because I couldn't see their name, so I just wanted to give them a little shout out. So I guess what I meant by tying it together, because this is where, and again, I've limited, knowledge of astrology, but I've had some readings. I have some idea of what that is. But then this astro map, when I pulled this off your website and, went in and played around with that, I was like, overwhelmed because there were lines everywhere. So even just the simple tying in of what a Pluto line means, I think might be helpful to those who have never seen any of this. So we kind of
Yeah.
set the stage by saying, well, what does that mean? Well, with Sharon, it means she's living on a Pluto line. But with me, it means I was born on a Pluto line, which we don't know what that means yet. But I'm going to bring this up and let you
Okay.
give us some
But
insight.
um, I sent you another map, not the local space map. Do you remember
Yeah,
that one?
oh, maybe. I was trying to find the different ones, and this
That,
one
that,
I
that, that's all right. We can
okay,
go to the local space.
okay,
So
hang
for a
I'll bring up what I have.
couple things I want to say.
Yes.
Um, I have a ginormous library on YouTube, or not ginormous, but I have a fairly big library on YouTube. And there's two different sides of my YouTube channel. Being a Gemini, I can't help it. And there's the astrocartography sign, and
Mm,
then there's the more esoteric, heart-centered, empathic astrology side. Um, there is a ginormous library of videos on astrocartography where I go into each, like there's 2 videos on Pluto lines. There's a bunch of stuff on Pluto.
okay.
But every planet has its own video. So each one of those planet lines, there's some stuff on local space. There's a little bit on geodetic. There's, I want to say 50 videos or more on this. And you can really dive into that if you want.
Awesome. Yeah, and I did
Uh,
share that in the group if anyone had wanted to pull that prior to, but I will share it in the replay link as well so that they can grab that.
and then
Um,
also I have a bunch of planets, or excuse me, bunch of videos on all the different planets and placements. So I have a bunch of Pluto videos. I have Pluto in all the houses, all the signs.
okay.
There's a ton of information there where I kind of dive deep into it.
I feel like I need to book you for about 6 more sessions just
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
we're scratching the surface. I wanted to
Oh,
just
yeah.
bring up your website and show, so this is Ralph's website, and I just wanted to kinda go in, here. So this free local space map, so I think that's the one I must be bringing up now.
Yeah. So now
That's this one, right?
yeah, yes. I want to apologize to everyone
Oh, yes. Do your
because
caveat on your website.
because I'm having a little technical issue. And so I should, once I get off this call, I will be putting on my computer programming hat and fix it hopefully today.
Awesome.
Um, but if you order maps, it may take a little while to get them. The local space maps, um, if you don't get it right away, come back and order it again. On the paid maps, I will resend it to you. I just don't want to take on sending the free ones out to people. Um,
Perfect.
but I should have that on, yeah. Um,
And what I will
so,
do is you let
so
me know, and then
yeah,
I'll post a note in the replay
yeah, yeah,
link
yeah,
that say
yeah, yeah,
it's been
yeah, yeah,
fixed. Yeah.
yeah. The other maps I will send out right away. Um, So,
And yeah, and
also, if you look at those 4 boxes, scroll up a little.
oh, right here, yes.
Yeah, so those will take you to the playlists that will
Oh, these
give
will take you to the
you,
YouTube.
yeah,
Okay. And
uh,
that get
um,
your map here. This is
yeah.
the personal astrocartography
Yeah,
map.
the best one, if you scroll up a little,
Yeah,
see the get your one on the left.
right here.
That's the best one because there's or actually no, excuse me. Let me step back.
Because I think that's the one
We
you
we
sent me,
no,
correct?
but let me step back.
Okay.
We are giving you a 50% off link.
Yes.
So go with that link.
Yeah, this one here.
No,
Oh,
that will not take you to the 50% off. That'll take
okay.
you to a $10 off. The
Okay.
other one is $25 off.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so there will be a link. Mary will provide it however she's going to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to give me a special link that's going to go to that map, but it's going to be a 50%.
I already gave it.
You did give it to me. Yes, you did. I have it
Yes.
right here. I'll
I
be
already
putting it
gave
in.
it to you.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
All right. So, right. So
so now local space. Let's go over to that other.
Yeah,
map.
let's go to local space. So I just want to see, everyone could see, this is the get your free local space map. Click here. This is where I went. And then I do have another one that Ralph sent me that I'll play with. I got them confused. So when you go in.
Do you have that one keyed up by chance?
Well, I don't have the other one, I don't think, but I might be able to go find it. I'll try.
Well, you have another link open on your. Oh no, that's my website. Never
No,
mind.
that's your website. Yeah, I went in my email and I didn't see it there. So, but I wanted to show people the free one.
So why don't we do something real quick? Go back to my website.
Okay.
Scroll down a little.
Okay.
Keep scrolling. You're going to see it. Try it. Yeah, stop right there.
Right there. Try it.
Just click try it.
Oh, okay. This must be the one I went into before.
All right. So just close that box right there.
Close.
All right.
Oh, this is the one I was on before.
So go up to the left box way up at the top. Right there, it says natal lines.
Yes.
The white box, the one on the far left, right there. Click on that. All right. So if you see those two lines, hold on. Oh yeah. So if you drag the map to the right a little.
Okay. This way or the other way?
Other way.
Okay, this way.
Okay. So see that black line?
Yes.
That is a Pluto line. Okay.
Okay.
Now that's out of orbit where I live. I grew up in Oakland, so I grew up on a Saturn line. See that brown line that's right off the west coast? So you think 700 miles for this system, okay?
Yes.
So if you live within 700 miles of your natal lines.
Yes.
So now this map is my transit and progression map. I do not recommend this for everyone. This is like if you really want to totally geek out on it. But the one you have, the one you're sending the link to is very similar. It has the four main systems. All right, so let's go back to the local space.
Okay, so let me go back.
Actually, hold on before
hold on. Okay.
Before we do that, click reset real quick up on the right.
Reset.
Yeah. And then close that dialog box again.
Okay.
And then if you go third from the left, it'll say local space.
Third from local space. Yeah.
Okay. So
this is the one that I put on the picture because I did this and I'm like, I have no idea what this means. And I'm like, what is happening in San Francisco where all these lines meet? But I think it just picked that spot,
I want to explain the local space system. So this is not astrocartography in the technical sense, although most people will call it astrocartography. And it's really locational astrology. So local space is really simple. At the moment of your birth, you were to step outside and look at the planet and take a compass heading. That compass heading is your local space line. So I was born in Oakland, where the center of that is. Okay.
Okay.
And everyone's local space map. Now, there's two different systems of local space. Okay. And this is based on your natal location. Okay. And so one way of looking at it is, so if you want to move in a particular direction, okay. So if I want to move into Pluto or move into Mercury, I would travel onto that line, okay? Now, this is the one way of using local space. This is the traditional way of using local space, okay? It comes out of your birthplace, all of them, okay? Now, go back to your other map.
Okay, back to my local space map.
Yes, okay.
So I purposely didn't pull anything up here because when someone goes into this, I want to show them this is what they'll see.
Okay.
And
Now,
then,
if you have location turned on, it should center on your location.
yeah, and
If
it
you don't,
has.
okay.
It
So
must,
I don't,
because I'm
I
pretty
don't
close.
know how much you want to show the world, you know,
Oh,
that your privacy thing.
yeah,
But if you want to zoom into your house,
I
or if you
do. I
don't want
want
to,
to
don't,
show people this because I was fascinated by it.
yeah. So zoom into your
This
house.
fascinated me. Yeah, so I really, this fascinated me when I did it. So I'm going to zoom in. Nobody can really see where I am or anything. So that's my house.
Okay,
And
yes.
when I,
Keep zooming in. Keep zooming
okay,
in one more time.
there,
Okay,
and then I click
perfect.
on it, right?
Okay, okay. So hold on before you click.
Okay,
Do you know approximately where you're sitting right now in your house?
I I do. I'm right here.
Okay, click right there.
Okay.
Okay, now
So
zoom in further if you
uh
can.
I don't think it'll let me zoom in any further.
Okay, so which so if you think about the water, which direction are you facing right now?
I'm facing, so right now I would be facing this corner of my house. So that purple and black line would be
Okay,
approximately there.
you did such a good job, Mary.
Did I set you
You
up?
oh, you set me up perfectly.
Okay. And hi,
So
Helena.
so
Just want to say hi to
so
Helena.
if you look at the top of the map, you'll notice that each planet is written in a color.
Oh,
Okay.
Pluto. I didn't even clue into that. That's my Pluto
Yeah.
line. Okay.
So so
Oh,
another
Pluto
way,
and Uranus. Those are the
yeah,
two that you said were the two
yeah,
symbols.
yeah. That's your
Okay.
I see your fourth house.
Okay.
Okay. So and this is we're gonna dive into it.
Okay.
Um um so there's two ways of using local space. One is from the place you were born, okay? The other way is like astrological feng shui, okay? This map that you're looking right now is astrological feng shui. And so you can use it in a bunch of different ways, okay? And ironically, Mary, infinite wisdom she doesn't realize she holds sometimes, set herself up perfectly because Pluto and Uranus, I want to say it's in your third house, but on your close to your fourth house. Okay. The third house represents where the way your mind works, your voice, the way you communicate, what you're curious about. Okay. The fourth house is how and where you nurture yourself. It is your home. Traditionally, it's home and family. Give me 1 second here.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Pluto is your ability to see into the hidden things. Uranus is your ability to kind of channel in things that are outside the box. And so, as she smiles over there, we can't help but think about how she uses her ability to see into other things and channel things outside the box as a way of
Totally.
nurturing herself. Wow, imagine that.
Yeah,
And
totally.
not to mention, I'm sure if we were to get her off the call and in private, that she probably only talks about depth and kind of scorpionic, honorary scorpion, we would call you, whether you have a lot of Scorpio planets or not. So now, uh, I'm making an assumption, Mary. You might not live alone.
Correct.
Okay. You might not want to have conversations facing that direction. Okay. So
Okay.
if you find yourself like, you know, being someone's psychotherapist a little too much, change directions. So if you
Okay.
see that yellow line out towards the water,
Yes.
so why don't you kind of just turn and face the water if you can, just a little right
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
Can you
and
do
that's
that?
interesting because when people come in to talk to me, that's the door, and that's exactly the yellow line when I turn and talk to them.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
She's a smart girl over there.
Yeah.
So that's your Mercury line. Okay. Your sun's
Actually, you
over
know what?
there.
That would be the other. That would actually be kind of that direction, the yellow. Close,
Yeah.
but that way.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
closet. They'll have to go stand in my closet while I have a conversation with them.
So one of the things that
Interesting.
it was interesting for me, quite often I'll inspire to do things and then I have no idea what I did until after I do it. So a friend of mine up in Canada inspired me to put this on a map. And so I had used this and it was antiquated before where you had to like get your computer and you use that other map and line up north and kind of figure it out, you know, or some people would print it out on there's videos online, printing it out on a transparency and lining it up and da da da. And I'm like, and so I had done it that way to line up my Mercury. I talk for a living, might as well look at my Mercury. Okay.
Mm.
Because what you're doing is you're utilizing that energy. You know, it's getting behind the wheel. Okay. Now here's that's getting behind the Mercury wheel. Okay. Here's getting run over by a line. So I had done that. I didn't have this map done yet. Once I got this map done yet, I'm like, oh, let me check out my office.
Mm.
Well, remember how I said that my ex-wife got me into astrocartography? Well, at the time I was married. And so I was facing my astrocartography Mercury line at my desk. Well, inadvertently, my ex-wife, my wife at the time's desk, was on my Mars line, the room next door to me. We never yelled in between our offices, promise. And then here's where it gets even weirder. I noticed that whenever we were at each other in conflict, I was lined up on my Mars. Now, I could say this is astrology, or I could say this is just me getting out of being stupid, you know? So when I realized that, I would just kind of like, so let's say I'm talking to my wife right now. All right, if I kind of move over here and talk to her like this, I'm no longer looking at her from my Mars line. Okay. And magically, the conflict would end.
Wow.
Now, whether that's my Mars or whether that was just me being like, hey, we're fighting, I'm not enjoying this, you know, let me do something different. I think it's probably a little bit of both. So
Very cool.
now here's the magic of this map. And it's so funny because so much of what I've done, it's like, it's so powerful, but I just like, I kind of move on to other things. And I know people use this map, but I don't think people use it as much as they could. Because this map is really super, super powerful. So like, let's say you're at work.
Mm-hmm.
You can set this anywhere. So, you know, where you're lined up on your office.
Yeah, I can't wait to do this. And I'm in two different offices, and I'm going to be
you're having issues with a coworker. You have issues, you know, or here's another thing. You're getting ready to go out to have a meeting at a restaurant. You want a particular outcome. You could pick the table that puts you in a particular direction.
So this is probably requires way more than a simple answer, but I
can't give a simple answer anyway. So.
But I think you kind of answered it for me. Like, what would that favorable line be for me? Is that the like Pluto, Uranus? Because we looked at the chart.
They're all favorable.
Okay, so it depends on the outcome you want.
It's like, so like, you know, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but do you live with a significant other?
I do, yes.
Okay, so does he ever or she ever? I'm presuming it's a he.
It's a he, yeah.
Does he ever like think you're too much of a psychotherapist for him?
Yes, like most of the time.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So don't look at them from your Pluto line.
Right. So depending
Okay.
on the outcome
So
you
so
want.
see that pink line?
Yes.
Okay. That's your Venus line. That's where you're all cute and sweet. All right.
So pick that line.
Yeah, look at them from that direction. Just kind of move it. And you'll notice, and here's the thing. This is the weirdest part where it's like, it's so weird because one of my favorite things about astrology is it makes people seem normal. It's like astrology paints your normal, because when most people that are into astrology don't get normalized in the world, Scorpio people don't get normalized in the world. But if you look at your chart, it's like, no, that's you normal. Okay.
So I'm going to throw another one at you. Sorry.
Hold on. Let me finish real quick.
Okay.
I'll try to be quick, even though I suck at it.
We're good.
So I noticed that almost all my interactions with my ex-wife, it's like laying in bed, she was on my Mars line next to me. It was like weird stuff like that. So when you start to look at this, you'll start to see, oh wow, everything is set up in that way. Okay. And so now you can utilize that,
I just wanted to share too, as you're saying that you can click on a line. So I could click on the Mars one, which is red. I just want to show people.
Yeah.
And you click on it and it brings up what that means. And
so let me give a caveat to that.
Yes, please do.
So I did this long time ago. Those definitions are not my writing. They are more of a traditional writing. If you want a more modern definition of each one of those lines has a video.
Oh, this would be the YouTube video.
Yeah.
So a person could take this chart and then they have all the lines and they could do your videos and they could do their own little cheat sheet. Yeah. And then they could use this in different places in their life.
So a lot of the writing is right on, but it's from the perspective of getting run over by the truck.
Okay.
Sometimes,
So
traditional astrology tended to be very deterministic, versus evolutionary astrology is very much around free will.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So last question on this one. So let's just say, because I want to see that I grasp this, and in me grasping this, I'm hopefully helping others. So I'm going to do this at my office. I have a meeting with my boss once a year. And so if I want that meeting to be more about what I did good and less about what I need to do better, for example, how would you pick do you know what I'm asking you? Like,
can you give me the nature of what kind of work you do?
I work in the bankruptcy industry.
Okay.
Yes. So yes.
So can you go back to your birth chart real quick?
I can. Yeah. Just give me 1 second here. We go share.
Because you got to review. This is the thing that most people miss about astrocartography. All of those lines are representing of your birth chart. So when we look at Mars, when we look at Pluto, right, we're looking at Pluto, Uranus, Virgo. Okay. So what is your what are you desiring out of your boss?
Yeah, and I'm just using it as an example, but let's just say the desire is a favorable review and a raise. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because everybody wants that.
Okay. And
so that pink, the pink and the black line.
So if you look at all of that, if you look at your Sun, Mercury, Venus up there, which appears to all be in Taurus.
Yes.
Okay. I can. Oh no, excuse me. Your Venus is in Gemini. That's your North Node. Sun. Okay, in Gemini. Oh, okay. So now this is where you gotta be careful. I'm gonna warn everyone that I can't help but just dive in. So if you ask me the simplest question,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
forgot that caveat.
I'm gonna dive in, and so I'm gonna be gentle on our
I'm
friend
an
Mary
open
over
book.
here.
We're good.
Well, don't say that to me, because
Okay.
I might open it to you. I don't think you want to dance around the internet naked.
Yeah. Okay. Don't want to do
Okay,
that.
okay. So I'm going to do a little roll ship dance with you. Okay. So there's a couple things we want to know about this. So you got your sun and your Mercury. So the sun is the main energy. Your Mercury is the way you communicate. In Taurus, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Taurus can be stuck, can also be into calm and beauty, okay? Now, there's that right side or upside down, depending horseshoe there, which
Mm-hmm.
is the North Node. So you have a North Node, Mercury, Sun conjunction in Taurus. Okay.
Yes.
So your resources is another way. Taurus is the 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 Taurus represents the second house, which represents your resources. Okay. And so you have this resource, but it's conjunct your North Node. Okay. And so you're somewhat ignorant here. Okay. Interestingly enough, I have a North Node in Taurus. Okay. So one thing about Taurus is calming. Okay. Um, and so now this is where it gets really, I'm just going to go super deep on everyone real quick, but I think you'll follow. If you look and think about Taurus's rules the second house, we look at that second house and we see Leo. Okay. So your resources is the sign of Leo, which is back to your house or your sun.
Mm.
Okay. So your sun, Mercury in Taurus in the North Node. Okay. Now this is where I was like, where I could go into places that I won't because we're on the internet. Okay.
Okay.
Now Taurus is ruled by Venus. Okay. Your Venus is in the 12th house in Gemini. Okay. So there's a couple different things that I would suggest. I'm going to go sideways to start with. Okay. So what feeds you and what gives you money isn't always the best. Okay. So when right before you do that interview with your boss, do one of these podcasts. Someone that really feeds you. I could be arrogant to say do one with me, but I will, just because, not that I'm arrogant, but I suspect that, I might be feeding you in ways that not everyone does. But the more you're fed and the more you're seen, really seen, because you're being seen to who you truly are now. Okay. Now, if you think about our soul, is like, one of the ways I like to look at it is like, if you think about the small represents the big. Okay. So when you're young, you can get away with eating anything. Everything's good. As you get older, it's like, whoa, not so well. Okay. If you go to a nutritionist, they take your blood. It's like, hey, you need more of these minerals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So taking that metaphor, expanding it out. Okay. One of the minerals you need is to be seen like you're being seen right now. Now, if you have a deficiency of that mineral, okay. Now, I don't mean to be mean, and I'm not picking on you here, but I'm just going to say what I see.
You say
Okay.
it.
So, I suspect most people don't eat McDonald's very often because it doesn't really feed them. Okay. Now, if you need to be seen from the soul level, seen, do you think going into a bankruptcy office is going to be anything but McDonald's?
I get what you're saying.
Okay, so now
So,
here's what I want to say.
yes.
Don't need to be filled there at all. Okay. If
Yes.
you get filled here, you're not there hungry.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
When
following
you're not hungry, you tend to act different.
you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now let
Yes.
me go at it from another direction sideways. Okay. The 12th house. Remember that show Bewitched?
Yes.
How did Samantha deal with everything?
She wrinkled her nose.
Yeah. So stretch your nose out.
I love it. Which is actually
So
very in
so
keeping with
so
how I
so
approach
so
those
so
things.
so here's my suggestion. What is your boss looking for? And I don't expect you to answer this.
Yeah, it's rhetorical.
I don't expect you to answer this, but I would expect you to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you see him getting that?
Yes.
Can you see him feeling filled in that direction? Can you nurture that part of him?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not coming to him hungry, is it
Mm.
him or she?
That's him. Yeah.
Okay. If you're not coming to him hungry. Now see how I'm going multiple layers deep here. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah. And this is where so many astrocartographers, it's like, because most astrocartographers, you know what they're going to say? You live on a Pluto line, move.
Yeah, I was actually going to
And
pull out to everyone that I hope you're getting this sense of how Ralph takes this to such a deeper level. Because I asked, what line do I sit on? But you've taken it to go, okay, we can talk about that, but just a minute. There's all these other elements. So let's
yeah,
talk about those. Let's make this the best possible outcome it can be, taking all these things into consideration as opposed to one thing.
yeah. No, so I want to step back to that North Node.
Yes.
So where are you at around praying? Where are you at around your angels?
You're wanting me to answer that. I'm
No,
good. And
I'm not expecting you to
oh,
answer
okay.
it. I'm expecting you to just. One of the things that I do is I ask questions to get you to think about things.
Right.
I generally will tell people I'm going to mess with your head, not in a mean way, but to kind of take you outside of your what's normal. You know, give you different opportunities to. So, Gemini, fundamentally, Gemini is curious. Okay. And fundamentally, to have a problem means you're not being Gemini. Because to have a problem means you haven't seen the solution.
Mm.
If you haven't seen the solution, you're not curious enough. Okay. So your Venus that rules that North Node, rules that Mercury, rules your Sun. Okay. That Mercury rules that Pluto and Uranus. So that Venus is key to you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like, so you made a big assumption. You think your review and how much money you make has anything to do with what you do. Okay. What if it had nothing to do with what you do?
Mm.
What if it had to do with how much you value yourself? How powerful, centered, and grounded in your because from a there's two different ways to look at the world. You can be a human having a spiritual experience, or you can be soul having a physical experience. I'm talking it from the fifth dimension here, the soul having a physical experience.
Mm.
Okay, your value, it comes from you. So that's why I said by having the, fill yourself up, feel super powerful, feel super productive, you know, um, you know,
I
be
I lo-
come at it super powerful, and then also, you know, um, and this is I don't mean to be picking on anyone here, and I don't mean to be picking on anything because everything is perfect. Okay. But so often, a lot of us um, make our money doing things that are not necessarily soul food. Okay.
Mm.
And and there's a lot of things that need to happen in the world that can be soul crushing. Okay. Now, I'm going to just kind of make an assumption saying that working in the bankruptcy industry probably doesn't feed your soul.
Wait, it
And
actually does.
okay,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah,
good, good, good.
it's actually a really good fit
But
for me.
here's kind of where I want to go sideways.
Okay.
I don't know if it necessarily features boss's soul. And
Mm.
so if you think about the Gemini, Taurus, 12th house, Venus, Gemini, Taurus, 12th house. It's like, what feeds your boss's soul?
Mm.
You're capable of seeing that, wiggling your nose and making it happen. Okay. Don't underestimate your ability to work in the energetic world. You have a planet in the 12th house, Venus in the 12th house. So that would be potentially be a good line to any of those lines. The Pluto would be a good line, especially if see Pluto's a good line if you understand what Pluto does, because
Yes,
Pluto
thank
wants
you
you
for
to see
bringing that back.
Pluto wants you to see everything. Pluto wants to see you as like, don't buy into it has anything to do with what you've done. You know, it's kind of like your vibrational value and also his vibrational value. You know,
Mm.
it's like um, you know, because one of the things I like to look at is it's like, what is the energy that I'm attracting to me, and what is the energy I'm sending out to people? You know, how much do you value what your boss does? Where are you just like really appreciating your boss?
Mm.
Sit in that place for the week before. Just like write down every, what do I really appreciate about my boss? You know,
I
and you don't have to say anything to them.
yeah.
All you have to do is come from a place of, and here's where it's like really interesting, because no matter how crazy your boss is or how crazy your work situation, I'm not talking about you particularly, Mary, I'm talking about everyone.
Yeah, I
you
think this
know
is such an important conversation. I'm loving
yeah,
that we brought it forward.
I might sneeze here, so excuse me. Maybe not. Okay. Anyways, I think did I go far enough off the
No,
cliff?
yeah. Ralph warned me ahead of time. He's like, when I get talking, I'm gonna no, and I'm loving the conversation. I love that we brought that up. And I hope that it's showing the viewers like the depth of where I feel like we need Ralph in our back pocket, like the depth of where you can come in and really help people um you know live that authentic life that they're looking to live, and really aligning with all these pieces. And I'm going to be interested to take, I love this tool, I love what you did, I love the overlay with the satellite, the fact that you can just pinpoint where you are. I think that's fantastic. I feel like we're going to play a lot with that, and then the YouTube videos are there to help. But I'm using this as my transition into talking about your special offers, because there's some ways that Ralph has offered to support us. And so just before I do that, does this take me back to your website? No, because I went out of it. So let me get back to your website. Oh, well, that was easy. Except you can't see it, so let me share it. It's like I'm back there already. So I just wanted to go back here for a moment. And just remind everybody, a few people popped on late, that was your free local space map. That's where we were just playing.
Yeah.
And the just before we go into your special offers, and then we're going to go into a private Q&A in a few minutes, you list 3 maps on your website. And I just wanted to point, like, these 3 personalized locational astrology maps, standard, complete, and then this complete plus transit and progressions.
Okay.
Can you just maybe explain like what when someone might use those, when they might be useful to someone, and the differences between them?
Yeah. So um, the standard map is just pure astrocartography. That's doesn't have local space and doesn't have geodetic. I haven't talked about geodetic, and I don't want to get into it quite yet.
We'll save that for the
No,
next interview.
Well, it's all kind of the same thing. The map that I'm giving you, so that the map that is $50, the complete map, I'm giving you the for the $25. I'm giving you 50% off.
And that's the one
Okay.
that's here, but I have a
Yeah.
special link that I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
post for people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that
Oh, is that
gives you,
this one as well? Sorry,
yeah.
this is oh, that's the second one. Complete map shows everything the natal map plus. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that one.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that you can get for $25.
So if you think about, there's the permanent energy, your birth chart. Okay. That is your birth chart mapped out on the world in 3 different systems. Okay. Now, the transit map is first of all, I want to recommend it's not for everyone. Excuse me. If you're at all confused about the complete map, that other one is just going to take you.
Do the other one.
Yeah. It's just going to take you completely over the top. Now, it's more for timing. Okay. It's the weather. So the transits are like what's happening in the sky. Okay. So I've done a bunch of videos on Pluto and Aquarius, Saturn and Pisces that are throughout the houses. If you want to check that out, we'll give you kind of, how to work with this directly. Sharon, I've done a bunch of, I think it was Sharon, I've done a bunch of videos of Pluto and Aquarius and Scorpio Sun. Highly recommend listening to those. So that's what's currently, so if you think about the moment of your birth is the book of your life, okay? The transits are the page of life. Now, there's another way of mapping this or another way of drawing this. The map is just another way of representing the chart. That's the key thing. You have to always come back. The map is just another way of looking at your birth chart, okay? So the progress chart is the chapter of life. I don't want to get too deep into it. You can Google on it if you want. So I don't recommend that for everyone. It can be good if you're looking at doing certain timing of things. It can also be good for advertising, because it'll show you. This is something I didn't talk about. I'll talk about it just briefly because also, if you get a reading with me, I say an hour and a half. I never keep it to an hour and a half. I don't time my readings. And so I usually recommend people leaving at least 2. I have been known to I've been known to go like 6. So I don't normally do that, but like I say, I don't time it. We get to start geeking out, and I just I enjoy this. This does not drain me. It energizes me. So, talking to people about life, I just excites me. So, and then the other thing is that due to the nature of my work, I recommend giving yourself some integration time. Okay, because I can't help but tend to kind of go deep, no matter what.
We have that sense.
Yeah. And so the progress chart is a way of seeing here's an interesting, I'll explain the progress chart for you. Mercury, Sun, main energy in the way you communicate. About 10 years ago, give or take, my Sun progressed from Gemini, and it goes a degree a year, okay? So most of my 30s, I was a progressed sun in Cancer. And then 10 years ago, my son progressed into Leo. Leo's the needing to be seen. And if you would have talked to me 20 years ago and you told me I would have been doing Zoom and Facebook and YouTube, I would have laughed at you. Like, there's no, yeah, I'm the shy, quiet guy in the corner. Don't look at me. You know, it was funny when I first started doing this, I never had my name or my picture on my website. And I was like, who are you? I'm like, yeah, don't look. And then my son progressed into Leo. Like, why am I wanting to do a YouTube video? What's wrong with me? You know, and so it was the chapter of life for me to take all that kind of inward work and share it out in the world.
I love the analogies you give. I love the way you explain things. Like, it's just
Thank you.
very
Thank you. Thank
concise
you.
and to the point and visual.
Yeah. And then also, I'm doing something. I want to kind of just do a little shameless plug, if that's all right.
Please do.
If you go to astro-bash.com, I am putting together a astrology conference here in Borrego Springs that's going to be super magical.
Ooh, I will put that link in our replays.
Yeah, and there's a small number of spots, and yeah, I'll be speaking, and my teacher will be speaking, and people who
Awesome.
kind of look at astrology from my perspective.
Cool. I just put that in there, so I'm waiting to see if it opens up for me. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to show you the
Yeah,
page.
just make sure you get the hyphen too. Yeah.
I'm going to show that page right now so people can see that, and I'll put the link in. So there it is.
You know, and it's so funny because you'll see my natural me and my not natural me. Because if you look on that website, you won't see anything about me on it.
I see
Eventually,
that. Or I don't
eventually
see
it'll
that.
be there. Eventually it'll be there.
Yeah.
I have yet to put my name and what I'm speaking about
Oh,
there.
you're funny.
This is
That's
my
awesome.
conference, you know. And you can
Excellent.
list the speakers and yeah. So
Cool. All right, I'm gonna bring us to a close here so we can do our private Q&A. So let me recap some of the specials. So first of all, if anybody wants the free local space map, I did already put the link in the event post, but I will have that link in here so you can do that.
and just let me add the quick caveat on that.
Sure.
I apologize. I'm having issues with my server. If
yeah.
you don't get it right away, just come back tomorrow and order that one.
Awesome. And what I'll do is I will put a little note when we're done and just say server problems. I'm just going to put a little note. And then when it's fixed, you're going to let me know, and I'll do another one just as a prompt for people.
Yeah.
So you can get that. Now, if you would like the personal AstroCartoGraphy, that's a mouthful, map, you're getting that for $25. There will be a special link for that. Yeah. And if you haven't already seen the depth of what this man can offer you in terms of insight, holy Moses, you can get a full reading for $50 off, which I keep forgetting to put the amount. I think there's
$250.
Yeah, $250, right? 300 normal, $250. For like he said, he completely goes over time and gives you so much information that we need to clone you and have you in each of our homes just to continue to guide us.
You'll find my YouTube video, and then actually there's a YouTube on my YouTube channel. There's a couple different things that I have done there. So if you look at the playlist, there's the whole astrocartography side of it. Now there's another playlist that's really helpful for all of us intuitive types called the meditation playlist that talks about psychic clearing, psychic protection. There's a bunch of candles, but then there's another one that actually is an astrology that's kind of like a little hidden gem that I think that if you're liking what you've heard so far, it's called the Heart Wisdom Podcast.
Okay.
And then also if you want to another secret little gem I have. So I have North Node in Taurus, Venus in Taurus. So one of my favorite pastimes is taking pictures of heart rocks. And I like to write poetry. And so
Oh,
there's a website, and if you just spell out My Heart Rocks with an S for you.com,
works for you. I love that. You're
you'll
great.
you'll see a whole nother side of me, because I'm a Gemini. I can't, I have the multiple personalities,
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad our paths
Yeah,
connected and that I reached out to you
yeah,
to be a guest speaker here. I want to thank you for, just thank you for
yeah.
your
And I'd love to come
wisdom and
back
your.
at some point if you guys
Oh
want
my
more.
gosh,
Just
there's
let
so
me,
much to unpack. We're definitely doing this
yeah. We
again.
could we could go in any direction too, so I can
Perfect.
we
All
could
right.
dive deep. All right.
Great. So thank you, Ralph. I'm going to stop the live portion of this, but anybody who's coming in for the private Q&A, so I know Sharon is, there might be some other members that are coming in as well. You have the link. If you don't, I'll connect with you on Facebook Messenger right after this and make sure you have it. So you can see how to connect with us. It's on this little ticker at the bottom. Ralph will let me know when the website glitch is all straightened out, and then I'll post all the links we talked about so you'll have access to those. And what would be your final words to anyone on, who's just curious about this, astrology, astrocartography, just that whole thing? What would be I don't know, that's a broad question for you, isn't it?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Be nice to my friends out there. Don't listen to the voices in your head, okay?
Perfect. I love
Because
it.
you're all beautiful. And here's another thing. Here's another little magical one that I came through me. So you know how you're on your evolutionary edge?
How?
Doing you fall down.
You fall down. I love it.
You think about it. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you know you're pushing your limits? You go over the edge, you fall
You
down.
go over
So
the edge and
so
fall
the
down.
next time you fall down, you start beating yourself up. Wait,
Mm.
step back. Because I know for a fact that if you're still listening to this conversation, you're pushing your limits and you're doing a good job. All right.
Love
So
it.
don't be too hard on my friends out there. Okay.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to hit end broadcast and just give it a second to